Hi, this is Nicholas Yaw, a registered migration agent from Pathway to Oz. Today, I'm going to discuss with you the remaining relative visa. Okay? Now, I'm going to discuss with you the remaining relative visa subclass 835, which is when you apply for the visa from onshore. Okay? Now, today I'm going to discuss, the visa process, the visa waiting times, the criteria, and the bridging visa associated to this. Please note, the information provided is general in nature. Basically, this visa is for someone whose entire family is living in Australia and it's just them overseas, okay? So, as per the regulations, for you or your partner, so if you've got a partner as well, their family must all be living in Australia, must not have a near relative who lives outside of Australia or who is in Australia on a temporary visa. So what that means is your parents, your siblings, your step-siblings must all be living in Australia when you apply for the visa and be permanent residents of Australia when you apply for the visa. So let's say, for example, Ben from England, his parents, his siblings, they're all Australian permanent residents, and it's just him back in the UK. Okay, so his mum and dad, they're all permanent residents of Australia. All his siblings are permanent residents of Australia. It's just him. He doesn't have a partner, and so he potentially could qualify for it. When you apply for this visa, there is about a 50-year wait. I didn't misspeak. There's about a 50-year wait for this visa. Okay, so what that means is if you apply from offshore, you're never getting this visa. Well, you might. I don't know if you're young. If you're 20, you might when you're 70. But there is a workaround to this. If you apply from onshore, you will get a bridging visa, okay? And you will be allowed to remain in Australia when it is processing. Now, important to that, okay, is if you apply from Australia and you're issued a bridging visa, the bridging visa will usually take over the same conditions as your previous visa. Now, what this means, if I'm on a student visa, if I come to Australia on a student visa and I get a graduate visa or a working holiday visa or something like that, and I then apply for a last remaining relative visa, the bridging visa associated to that remaining relative visa will have the same work conditions as my working holiday or my student or my graduate visa. So if you come on a visitor visa, the bridging visa conditions you'll get from the last remaining relative will be no work rights. But if you apply from a graduate visa or a working holiday visa, you will have work rights on that bridging visa. And that's crucial because it's a long wait. So look, in order to apply for this visa, you must be sponsored by one of the said family members, so a parent, sister, brother, stepsister, who's obviously an Australian permanent resident and over 18. They will potentially be requested to provide an assurance of support. So what this means is they may need to give the government some money just in case you run into some troubles and you're a burden or a cost to the state. Now, how to lodge the visa? For some reason, this visa is still a paper application, so you need to lodge it via paper. You can't lodge it through the IMI website. The cost for this visa is currently $5,125, which is paid when you lodge the visa. Okay? So, look, a good example of when it would be good to use it, Ben from the UK, all his family are Australian citizens or permanent residents. His siblings are all Australian citizens. He's got no one back home. He comes to Australia on a working holiday visa. He then applies for the last remaining relative visa from within Australia and gets a bridging visa. Now, the bridging visa will take over the same work rights as his working holiday visa. So he'll have full work rights from within Australia or potentially have full work rights from within Australia. Now, basically from there, it's 50 years. So hopefully maybe he can use that visa as just a bridging visa to, meet the requirements for another permanent visa. Maybe he meets a partner, maybe he gets a skill, that sort of stuff. But in that time, for while it's processing, he can remain in Australia, live, work, etc. Now look, I hope you found this information helpful. Please note the information provided is general in nature. And if you do have any other questions, feel free to contact Pathway to Oz. Thanks.